You see this right here? Arcturx? Yeah, I'm better than you. Now, basically, my job on this channel is to drop opinions constantly over and over and over again. I've probably dropped over 100 takes, individual, separate takes on driving. And when you repeatedly go over opinions that much, you're going to say things that are wrong or need clarification. And that's exactly what this video is for. I'm going to be going over all my most controversial takes, the ones that got me absolutely destroyed and canceled in the comments. And I'm going to be doubling back on them, providing clarification, or just saying when I was outright wrong. You can see the tiers right here. I think as an authority figure, people see me as a driving authority figure. It's important that I give you the most accurate and best information to my knowledge. Follow me on IG. We just hit 1K, so we're getting some motion there. Get in now before we absolutely take off like we did here on YouTube. And the hairline reveal. Check this out. It's censored. Why? Because we haven't hit 100K yet. Some of you selfish people haven't subscribed yet, while everyone else is waiting patiently for you guys to subscribe. So subscribe now. Let's get into the video. Starting off, we have my world famous speed limit takes. Now in these two videos right here, I basically said, instead of going right on the limit all the time and stressing about these speed limits that have been set, why don't you just generally follow the flow, stay somewhat tethered to the speed limit, but just relax, breathe a bit and go the flow of the traffic. And if that's, 5-10 kilometers per hour over, so be it. And, a lot of you agreed, a lot of you did not agree. And I hope to provide clarification so that this can be the last and final time I mention this. So let's talk about how these speed limits are made, okay? Now, they're made with something called the 85% rule. And what the 85% rule is, basically traffic engineers will sample an area of road for a certain amount of time, and what 85% of the drivers are going, that will be the speed limit that they set, okay? And usually what they do is if say it's like 58 kilometers per hour, they'll round down, okay? Or they'll just arbitrarily knock the limit down a little bit. So this makes sense to set the speed limit to, but the problem is when people stick right on that limit, they'll start to go below the speed limit, right? If you make sure you're going 50, you're not always gonna be on 50, okay? You're gonna go below a bit, and that's annoying for the people behind you, okay? So what I argue is, hey, why not push it 5 to 10, go the flow of the traffic, and then just relax a bit, okay? You're not gonna hold anyone up behind you, but you're not going crazy fast, right? You're just going a reasonable speed, and this works for everyone, including me, and this is what I do. However, people took that to mean that I was, maybe promoting some speed demon, going crazy. No, okay? No. And I feel like I should make this clear that you should not be going crazy speeds. What I don't want is some 17-year-old E90 driver going 200 down the Trans-Canada, gets pulled over and be like, oh, Jimmy Drives told me to. No. That was your doing, okay? My hands are clean. Now, this is the biggest counter argument and probably the most valid is, hey, speed is exponential, right? So 5 kilometers per hour over isn't just going to be a marginal gain. It could be the difference between life and death. And I actually agree with that, which is why I think there are certain cases in certain areas of the roads where you should absolutely never speed and you should be very careful. This includes intersections, okay? Intersections are so dangerous. Just be super careful in intersections, especially with your speed. School zones, residential areas, playground zones. If you speed in any of these places, you're an idiot, okay? But if you're speeding a bit down a major artery road or the highway where there's pretty much no hazards except, people on their phones, I don't think it's a big deal, okay? I'm definitely put this in needs clarification, but I still 100% have the same takes on speeding I did when I dropped my first video. Next up, we have running yellows. Now, this did not gel well. My take on this for some people, but I think it's plain and simple, okay? Now, never run stale yellows or reds. If you have plenty of time to react and you still go for it, then that's an issue. But if it's kind of borderline, some people would stop, some people would go. Here's how I dictate personally if I run the yellow or not. If there's someone waiting to turn left in the intersection, I will brake every time, okay? Because then if I run it, they're going to have to run a red. It's going to impede on other traffic, and it's all my fault. But if the intersection is wide open, no one's waiting to turn left on the yellow, I will just go. I think it's perfectly fine. Don't run reds. Don't run stale yellows. But if it's a normal yellow where you have time to slow down, but you could run it, I usually run it if it's empty. Just make sure you never run it if someone's waiting. I think I've made that pretty clear when I've talked about this in the past. I stand on business here. Next up, I talked about in these two videos here, you should always make a right turn on a red when it feels safe to do so. And that if you don't feel confident, you should try and get your confidence up so you're making right turns on reds. And my reasoning for this is that intersections have long light cycles. So if you're waiting for a while to turn right on red and it's finally green, not many people will go. Whereas if you make a right turn on a red, a lot more people who are waiting to turn right behind you will have the chance to go. Now, for certain intersections that feel pretty safe, I still agree with this. However, there's a lot of nuance here, and often making right turns on reds can maybe block the pedestrians trying to go, block cyclists, and then also put you at risk for colliding with a cross-traffic vehicle. So considering this danger, what cities have now done, I think New York has completely eliminated right turns on reds, but my city is starting to do this as well. They're putting no right turn on red signs in certain intersections, and this actually makes sense. So I think the ideal situation we have is that the city goes through, bans right turns on reds that are dangerous, but keeps the ones that are probably relatively low risk. However, my take was that you should just make the right turn on reds unless it's super chaotic. And for that, I don't think I'm fully right. So I'm going to put this in partially wrong. Next up, also in the driving school video, I talked about using hand over hand steering over feeding the wheel because I think it's just the better method overall for control. A lot of people said if you're using hand over hand and you get hit, and the airbag goes off, that you're gonna like snap your arm or something. Now I could technically see how that works and how that would happen, but I just think it's still not a valid reason to use feeding the wheel. When you're turning, objectively, all you want is the most control over the vehicle. In almost all cases, it depends on preference, but in almost all cases for most people, that should be hand over hand. And honestly, when you're making a sharp turn like that, you're never gonna be going that fast anyways. Maybe some oncoming traffic could be going pretty fast. But still, I think the risk is low. Honestly, just do the one that gives you more control. It's something to consider if you don't want your arm to be snapped, worst case scenario, but I don't realistically think that's something that's going to happen. I'm going to put this in minor clarification. Next up in this video, I talked about not leaving too much space in between cars at a stoplight. I basically said that's a waste of space if you're leaving big gaps in between cars in front of you and that you might cause more traffic than is necessary. And honestly, I was completely wrong here. This is the first one I'm going to say I was fully wrong, and here's why. Now, the main reason they tell you to leave space in the first place is so that in case the car in front of you breaks down, you don't have to like maneuver out. You can just easily go around them. Then there's also the option, this is not common in America, but very common in Europe, is that if people are driving standard, you don't want to be on their tail, and it's a manual driver. This is incredibly annoying when people do this. I was absolutely wrong here. Next up, I talked about how driving instructors overuse the handbrake, okay? They force the handbrake on you way too much. And honestly, upon reflection, I think that's actually a good thing. The handbrake is such a minor thing. It's like signaling, but it could make such a big difference, right? Leaving your car in park, if it's an automatic, without the handbrake can actually wear on the gears. Whereas using your handbrake is actually good for the handbrake, right? Not using it for too long can actually be bad for the handbrake, believe it or not. And then if you're on a hill, you want that extra layer of security so your car doesn't roll away. Overall, there's many reasons to use the parking brake and pretty much no reasons not to. So I see why driving schools push it. I personally use it out of habit every single time. And honestly, I think everyone should too. I was definitely partially wrong here. Next up, I talked about how people underuse the horn and people need to overuse it, okay? People didn't like this because people just said, are you promoting road rage? Which is absolutely not true. I would never do that. I'm better than that, okay? In fact, I'm the biggest anti-road rage person you will ever meet. What I do believe in is the horn is a tool, okay? And you should be using it when necessary, when it serves a functional purpose, okay? So if you're just getting mad and laying on it, there's absolutely no point. So then you should just be using it when someone is going to hit you or to avoid an accident pretty much, or to remind someone if someone's at a stoplight on their phone and the light turns green, give them a couple beeps, right? And that's, most people agree with that. What I also think is sometimes it is okay to use the horn after, okay? Because some people are oblivious to the fact that they might be causing accidents, okay? So someone does something to you that is so bad that nearly caused an accident and you don't have time to react and hit the horn. You just have to stop yourself and they're completely oblivious to it. Sometimes I think the horn after the fact is okay to use because some people need to learn, right? Now, will they take accountability for their actions after they hear the horn? Probably not. They'll just get mad at you. But some people don't realize their bad habits could be dangerous and could be near causing crashes. So the horn is a helpful tool in that case too. Overall, minor clarification was needed. Next up in my first video, the best driving habits. I talked about I was actually bad when people slow down when someone's tailgating behind them, okay? I talked about how that's a bad habit. I made it clear that if you're just doing it to get a rise out of them and slowing down below the limit and slowing down excessively, that's wrong, okay? And I still believe that. However, what I didn't make clear is that it is okay sometimes to slow down when someone's tailgating you. And in fact, you should do it. And the way you should do is not by brake checking them and going super slow, as I mentioned before, but just gradually slowing down to the speed limit, so that in the event where you have to slam on the brakes, you're going slower and it will reduce the chance of an accident. But if you're just doing it to get a rise out of someone, to go below the limit, to just keep going slower when they're tailgating you, trust me, tailgaters are already angry. It's not going to help anything. Making someone more mad who's already mad at you is not going to get them to stop being mad, if that makes sense. I'm going to put on I stand on business, okay? Next up, people did not like this one, although I still think it's right. You know, I'm going to put it here, and that's waiting until the end of the zipper merge to get in, okay? People get so mad at you when you do this. I fully think that you should wait till the end of the zipper merge, zipper in. That's how a zipper works. Like this is how a zipper works. You zipper at the end, right? But no one seems to think that. No one knows that that's how you do it. And a lot of people think they're being heroes by just merging in early. And then they get mad at the people who are actually wanting to save themselves time and using the road correctly by not letting them in when it's their turn to zipper. It's just ridiculous. When you zipper merge super early, it just causes the traffic to be backed up more. When there's all this empty lane space in the other lane that's going to zipper in, that you could be in, okay? And you can save yourself time as a byproduct. You're not being selfish by doing this. This is the right thing to do. Finally, my whole video, okay? It's funny because I'm attacking a whole video here about highway lane structure. The claim that I made wrong here, specifically where I filmed it in Vancouver, is that the middle lane is a passing lane. That's what I said. The middle lane is another passing lane. Get out when you're done passing. That's actually not necessarily true. Turns out it depends on the jurisdiction, which area you're in, but the middle lane actually can be used as a cruising lane. It's very vague. And I think this is why the highways are so bad these days, is because the instructions on which lane to use is super vague. It's never drilled in driving schools. But after doing some research and getting reminded, the middle lane can actually be used for cruising. And this is for a couple of reasons. First of all, in Vancouver, where I was filming, the rightmost lane can sometimes turn into an exit. Not like have the option for an exit, but the rightmost lane will just suddenly be an exit. So you don't want to have to merge last second. The second reason is that people coming in and off the highway cause traffic in the rightmost lane. So it's better just to avoid that and be in the middle lane. I think the majority of the video still stands where I said, okay, make sure you're not just cruising in the passing lane, i.e. the leftmost lane. But what I failed to mention is that the middle lane can still be used for cruising, provided you're going at decently reasonable speed. So for that, partially wrong. That was all. Follow me on Instagram, join my Discord. See you in the next one.